Hello and welcome to my IB Music HL Contemporary Music Maker presentation. What I've envisioned to do with this project is to ultimately create a dance performance where someone will dance to a newly composed piano piece of mine. As for musical goals, I've aimed to compose a piece inspired by the bossa nova style originating from Brazil, however also adding aspects of jazz such as walking bass and swinging sections. This collaboration is unlike the usual chamber music partnerships in which people of the same musical field and similar technical understanding get together. The nature of this case is one in which music and the performing arts combine, whereas the differences in the communication of an art between the two mediums of piano playing and dancing were sure to present some challenges. Where I am accustomed to moving and structuring a musical phrase through articulation of a musical theme and manipulation of flow, tempo, and rhythm, for example, the dancer has to communicate this phrase using her body, whereas I, as the music maker, have to be able to communicate a structurally and musically sound phrase without compromising the dancer's ability for her body to follow and respond to the music. Furthermore, I have to be able to follow the dancer's rhythm not by ear, but by eye, which is something that I, as a musician, am not used to. I have to also emphasize on the fact that an artistic collaboration of any kind is not simply one plays and another follows, but rather it is an exchange of expressions where all parties have to listen to, watch, and follow each other as if their brains are intertwined. This project is relevant to the real world of music making in that the dancer and I are working together to create something as a whole, as opposed to me composing and performing a piece for a solo performance. Naturally, a collaboration as such requires lone practicing and work time, as does any collaborative project. However, it also requires communication between the two parties regarding scheduling discussions or input sessions, finding and maybe even renting suitable rehearsal grounds, rehearsing, and finally presenting the final product in a performance. Whereas these aspects are frequently found in today's collaborative music world in both small and large ensembles and make these projects more structurally complex than solo endeavors. Even the final performance on a stage with such a collaboration poses a different challenge than a solo performance, since pressure is shared between multiple parties and they can affect one another in good or bad ways, which is an aspect not only seen in the musical world, but the working world as a whole, since structure is derived never from one person but always from multiple people working together. Communication is key. Since I am the one initiating this project, my role is not only to compose and provide musical accompaniment to the dancer, but it is also for myself to reach out to the dancer on my own accord to discuss and schedule rehearsal times and to actively seek input and discussion. I dare say it is to have a leading role and to see that the plan of the project moves smoothly and doesn't come to a halt. However, as an artist, I am also responsible for making my performing partner feel comfortable with what we are doing and to make her believe that we are equal as artists in order to allow for a smooth and well-balanced performance. The time allocation will come in at roughly 61 hours, 20 hours of composing in the format of 2 hours per day over 10 days, roughly the same time for the dancer to receive a MIDI recording of the piece to get to know it and structure a dance routine around it, 5 hours of solo practice each, and 5 hours of rehearsing together, 10 hours to put together and write the script for the presentation, and no more than 1 hour of scheduling and renting practice spaces, as fortunately, living in Vienna comes with the perk of being able to easily find good practice spaces. As for resources, we will obviously need myself and my colleague as pianist and dancer. I will need a composing medium either in the form of a program like Sibelius or just pen and paper, a large space with a piano, recording equipment and proper lighting to perform and record the final performance, a piano practice room, a dance practice room, and dance gear for the dancer. Although we did have solo practice rooms at home, we did have to rent rehearsal spaces at the Vienna Klaviergalerie for €8 an hour. Times 5, that equals €40 rehearsing expenses. I've had Sibelius pre-installed on my computer coming in at €139 for a perpetual license. However, note-taking programs are in no way necessary for this project, as composing can be done on paper without any expenses, but with the cost of a few hours of additional time investment due to slower notation. Luckily, a room with proper lighting and studio equipment are available at school for no expense. As for the dancing gear, the dancer naturally had that already. Therefore, the only expenses really necessary for this project were supposed to be €40 for rehearsing expenses. However, a problem that occurred was that we had to pay the fees for the rooms if we cancelled less than 24 hours before our scheduled times, bringing our total expenses up to €64. This, unfortunately, is also something that may frequently happen in the case of a real-life musical collaboration, especially if the collaborators do not know each other well. Whereas our collaboration did not require many expenses, the availability of practicing facilities and recording equipment is never the same. For real working musicians that do not have facilities at any sorts of schools anymore, the cost may very well be a lot higher, including the rent for rooms for solo practice and especially for recording and performing venues. Therefore, the expenses of such a project in a real-life sense are very likely to be a lot higher. Now to the composition. The intent behind this composition was to try and compose a piece taking inspiration from the Brazilian bossa nova, bearing in mind not to compose overly virtuosic and technically difficult in order not to overpower and take away attention from the dancer, whereas the name Banana Bossa stems from the bossa nova inspiration. After conducting research on the genre of bossa nova, I've come to the conclusion that it is essentially a style of samba involving jazz influences. I've attempted to combine the displaced rhythms of Latin music, as seen in the ostinato in measure 5, with melodic aspects that resemble improvisation in jazz, such as rapid scales along a wide register, as seen in measure 14 to 15. Additionally, I've added a heavily jazz-influenced style from measure 25 to 31. Whereas this is defined by the walking bass and the syncopation in the right hand, which creates a swing feeling. This has been done with the purpose to clearly highlight the influence that jazz has on bossa nova and to display a very contrasting development of the aspects of the main beginning theme from measure 5 to 9. By changing the style almost completely while however still using aspects of this main melodic theme such as the same motivic and pitch material, structural coherence is maintained while not straying too far from the musical concept of the work. As I've decided not to use percussion, the purely chordal repetitions as seen in measure 18 to 21 and 32 to 33, in combination with accentuation and the displaced rhythm of the ostinato, provide the percussive and rhythmic underlining that the listener might be missing. After attempting to play the piece myself, I had to make some minor harmonic changes to the piece as I realized some areas of the piece had instances of dissonance that harmonically didn't make sense. For example, in measure 29 I had to change the D to a B flat in the right hand in accordance with the diminished G7th chord and the F minor sequence that followed. Here is the original. And here's the changed version. Then there were also instances such as measure 33 where I had to move the octave ostinato down by one step in order to complement the G minor 7th chords. Here's the original. And here's the changed version. Lastly, I've decided to add a little cadential section to the end of the piece, as I felt it lacked dramatization and was not effectful enough, and I've done this by tremulating the last chord in the left hand while playing a half-diminished A minor glissando-like scale in the right hand, whereas this also resembles ending sections after a long jazz session and therefore also fits the style of the piece. Here's the original. And here's the last changed version. Now to the collaborative aspect of the project. As for the dancing aspect, I've left any decisions solely to my dance colleague, as I lack the understanding of technical details in the art of dance. Whereas the dancer did not have problems with the compositional structure of the piece, I've had to heavily adjust the way I play in order for her to be able to follow me. Oftentimes I've played too freely, meaning that I've either pulled phrases too far by slowing down in the middle, or having speedy tempo changes that were too sudden, resulting in the dancer not being able to follow. In addition to this, I've had to more accurately accentuate different beats in various sections in order for her to be able to hear more clearly the up and down beats, and therefore to move accordingly. Similarly, I've had to justify some of my musical decisions as some technical limitations required minor speed-ups or breaths in order to continue smoothly. These aspects resulted in me having to restrict myself in order to not play too virtuosic or to manipulate the rhythm too much. And these things led to us having to compromise and adjust to each other, since we both had aspects in mind that the other had not envisioned. Whereas this has led to minor disputes, we were in the end able to find methods and adjustments that were comfortable to perform for both of us. Whereas this has also shown that a collaboration as such requires more consideration and a different train of thought than when working alone. I feel that this has not only reflected the nature of collaboration in music, but the nature of collaboration in any working field, and that your thoughts alone are not all that count, and that there have to be compromises, even within disputes, that have to be made in order to further better the final result. Finally, I feel the need to express that the dancer and I have both been fortunate in the collaboration in that we're both sufficiently skilled enough in our fields that the project went rather smoothly on a purely technical basis. This means that the dancer was able to very well adjust to the piece without requiring any major rewrites, whereas I have enough technical proficiency to be able to follow the demands of the dancer without too much trouble. I can see how this may not always be the case, whereas in different situations there may have to be major rewrites of a piece in order to suit the needs of a collaborative partner, or there needs to be a lot more time invested into practicing because technical proficiency is lacking. There may also be challenges if both parties are not open-minded, whereas disputes may overpower the productivity of the project that is being created, leading to longer hiatuses than necessary. However the case, here is the final product of our work, and I hope you enjoy watching.